Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. We talk about horror movies. I'm Peter, that is Timmy. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a fairly recent film called Lake Nowhere. But it doesn't look recent, it looks like it was shot in Shitty about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is essentially a Grindhouse movie, or in the style of Grindhouse, where they shot a movie and they made it look like crap,
Yeah.
intentionally. This one specifically looks like it was like recorded on VHS, and there's like a couple of the I don't even know what you call it, the line that goes
Like
across,
like a tracking
yeah,
kind of thing.
the tracking kind of
Yeah.
effects you get on that sort of stuff. But yeah, so the whole idea of this one is that it's like a slasher movie from that time period, and it even looks like it was on a VHS that you would have got from the video store, and that's kind of the whole thing here.
Yeah.
Now, we both wanted to watch this, and what we didn't know before we watched it, I don't think either of us knew this, is that it's only 52 minutes long.
Yeah. I kind of feel like well, after watching it, I feel like this was like kind of less of like a movie, and it felt more maybe like a longer student film or something. Like
Yeah, I can see that. It is worth noting that the Academy defines a feature-length film as over 60 minutes, so technically speaking, this is actually a short film.
yeah.
Um,
They did like they did pad it with like well, actually, is the in the 52 minutes, does that include like the fake trailer and
it
commercial?
does, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
that's actually something really worth mentioning, is that it's 52 minutes, but that also includes fake commercials and a fake trailer at the start. And then it even goes into like full opening titles where, music plays and they come up one by one. And at this point, I'm like, wait a minute, we're like almost 10 minutes into this and we haven't even started yet. Which interestingly made me feel like it was less of a movie. You said shouldn't film.
Mhm.
I actually kind of felt like this could be a pilot for an anthology TV
Oh,
show
okay. I
where
could see that.
you could do different types of grindhouse style stories, and because if you strip out the opening titles and the fake trailer and all that, it probably is about 40 minutes, which is the
Yeah.
length of a network TV hour long episode. So I actually kind of thought that would have been a cool idea, is that if this was a pilot for a TV show where you just have like different stories each
Yeah.
week.
I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah. That said, though, we've talked about the length, we've talked
Yeah.
about all that sort of stuff. Did you like it, Timmy?
I would say I like parts of it, but I'd say overall I wouldn't say I hate it, but overall I wasn't loving it at the end. I would say I kind of liked the idea of it, and I think that there was like promise in it, but in the end it didn't completely work for me.
I I am more positive than you. I feel like
Mm.
I didn't start off super positive. Like, I like the fake trailer, and we'll talk about the fake trailer specifically in a bit. And I like the style it was going for. I do think for a thing that was only 52 minutes, and we talked about all the extra stuff that's there at the start, so technically the story itself is only about 40. I did think for something that's that long, that a lot of the early scenes of because it's about, a group of, 20 somethings who all arrive at a cabin or like
Yeah.
a lake house in the middle of nowhere next to this lake. And obviously they're there to, get drunk, party, whatever, people in these movies tend to do. And I felt like the scenes of them actually just like partying really dragged on. Like it felt like there was no real plot for those first 10-15 minutes of this story, and it was just them hanging out doing nothing and playing party games. I remember an extended 3-minute sequence of them playing this game where they have to bend over to pick up the bag with their teeth.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you what, like this is kind of one of the things that bothered me most about the movie is I felt like I could never really hear what the characters were saying. Like all the dialogue felt like it was just kind of you know, off in the background. It was I feel like it wasn't very clear, and I assumed that they were kind of going for that cheaper sounding kind of thing, because the gimmick of the film. But I feel like it's not something that you're like, oh, like, this is cool because of the gimmick, and something more like, oh, this is just kind of annoying. I'd rather they just, had like a little better sound.
Um, I both agree. I agree and disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mainly, like I would agree with you had I thought it was as bad as you're saying, but I never actually had a problem with hearing them.
I had a lot of trouble, like, and not like all the time. Like usually when someone was like, like directly talking or whatever is fine, but like a lot of times, like specifically during those kind of like partying and hanging out scenes, I feel like it just sounded like background noise, like just people talking in the background at a party and stuff, instead of like, actually, I guess what you would be accustomed to, in most movies, of like, kind of hearing what people are saying. But
Yeah, that's kind of a weird complaint because I do think that's completely intentional. Like, if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fair. But
yeah.
I feel like a lot of movies back then did this though, where when it was scenes like that, you would just have general chatter noise instead of actual, dialogue. Because I don't think the dialogue in those scenes is important, so I don't think you're
Right.
you're
Yeah.
missing anything of like interest or note. It's just party
Yeah.
noises as they're playing stupid games or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, like I knew, like I figured it's, obviously not like something huge that I'm missing or anything, but it still just frustrated me. Maybe it's just because like part of me, I was like, I kind of, I'm trying to make out what they're saying. I want to hear what they're saying, but that was like, I feel like there's some parts like that where I understand like the gimmick and stuff that they're going for, and I feel like at times it kind of hurt my enjoyment of it rather than like elevated it.
I didn't feel that way. I think
Mhm.
my complaints with the first like part of this story was mainly just the pacing of it and how it didn't really feel like it was doing anything. The actual gimmicks of the it looks like crap, it looks like VHS, and it sounds like rough. None of that bothered me. If anything, I at least liked it. That gave me like a mood. It gave me like a bit of nostalgia almost for watching crap on VHS when I was a kid. So
Yeah, at the very least, it does give it like some style, so it is kind of, it makes it at least like visually more interesting than, if it was just like a regular, generic kind of movie nowadays.
honestly, it's actually pretty well shot. Funnily enough, like the
I
actual cinematography is actually
mhm.
quite good.
I was gonna ask you, like, like is it kind of, because like obviously like you went to school for film and stuff, so like more technical stuff, but like is it kind of hard to recreate that style like nowadays? And I'm sure there's probably different ways that you can do it, some like that are
Um,
easier than others, but
I'm not sure exactly how they did it, but I don't
Mhm.
think it's super difficult. I think the directing style is just something the director and the cinematographer have to, be aware of. Like this is the sort of shots that they would do, and I think they pulled that off well. I think all of the other stuff, the way it looks, the way it sounds, I'm pretty confident that was mostly just done in post. Like I don't think.
Yeah, because I didn't know if like the kind of the film quality or sound, like if nowadays, if there's just like editing programs where you can just add like a like 70s film feature, you know what I mean, like if it's as easy as that. But
Tim, it is. This is that simple.
okay.
I could literally do that to our this show. This
Yeah.
review show. I could make it look as from the '70s probably.
Okay.
Now, admittedly, they probably spent a lot of time on theirs and like really fine
Oh
tuned it
yeah.
all. Whereas obviously, if you just turn on a stock set and it'll just I mean, it'll look fine, but it won't be. Whereas with
Yeah.
this, you can tell they picked the exact moment where they wanted the tracking thing to come in. And it
Right.
wasn't just random. They said, no, this is the perfect time because it won't interrupt anything important, but it'll add the extra little bit of effect or whatever. Another thing that you could maybe complain about this movie, if you're not enjoying the throwback nature of it, is the terrible acting. But again, the terrible acting is very, very intentional. It's meant to be like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of just give it a pass, which is it's just fine. It's kind of this weird thing where you almost all the complaints you could throw at it for stuff like that. It's kind of the point. It's meant to be like
Yeah.
that, so you can't really criticize it in the same way.
Yeah, definitely. You could like very easily counter it with
Yeah.
being like, oh well, it's intentional, or
So I think we're about to get into more spoilers, but I will say as we get into more spoilers, that I quite like the rest of the film. Like for as negative as I've been kind of been for the first little chunk of it, I actually really once the proper like slasher stuff got going, I did actually quite enjoy it.
Yeah, I still had a few problems with it, but overall, I'd say that that I like if I had to strictly pick like, did you like it or hate it? I would go like it. But I wasn't over the moon about it, and I did still have some problems, so I might sound like a
Tim,
more negative,
I
but
feel like I should ban you from saying the word overall this early in the show.
okay.
But yeah, so the general plot of what's going on here is like one of the guys goes into the lake, which is really cold.
Are we in spoilers now, or do you
Uh,
still?
yeah, sure. We're getting into sort of
Okay,
spoiler territory, yeah.
okay, just making sure.
So yeah, what one of the guys goes into the lake and he appears to be like pulled under and whatever, and this is actually before the party, by the way. Like the night of them
Oh,
like
yeah.
playing games and stuff happens after this, and it did occur to me: did no one think, "Huh, that's strange. We've not seen
Yeah.
whatever his name is in like 8 hours." No one brings it up,
Yeah.
which is maybe one person mentions him. I can't remember, but it's definitely they're not concerned. They're playing party games.
Right.
They're quite content with what's going on. But he eventually comes back in as a sort of like mind controlled zombie corpse or whatever, and he's like blue. And they think he's just like cold from the water because
Yeah.
he saunters in naked and he's butt ass naked. You see penis and everything. It's flying everywhere, and they just like try and like wrap him up, thinking he's to heat up, thinking he's to get a bit warm, clear his head a bit. But then very quickly, of course, later on, soon after, he eats their dog. He eats the dog, and
Yeah.
then when the girl who wakes up and tries to stop him from eating the dog, he starts bashing her head repeatedly into the wall. And this is something I actually really liked about this movie, is I thought all the kills were actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
Mostly they were actually quite good. There was one that was really bad in a really like intentionally awful way.
Oh yeah.
Which
I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Decapitation.
decapitation. Thank you, Timmy.
Yeah.
That was like a proper Porky Pig moment there with that.
Yeah.
But no, like I thought all the kills were really good. The machetes getting in through the chin, heads bashing on the wall, biting on the neck.
Yeah.
The girl who gets her head bashed later on when she's still alive and she has the bandages wrapped around gets pushed back onto like a nail that's like sticking out of the
yeah.
wall. Like there's a
That's
lot
cool.
of good kills. Like they really put some effort into this. And that was really fun. And once it got going, the pace was really good. And you had this thing where the possessed corpse zombie, whatever you want to call him, was killing people, but we also had a masked killer who was like,
Nah. What's that? Go ahead.
oh, there you go. What?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I actually really thought this aspect was cool. That it's not just like one, type of horror thing. Like like you have this like kind of masked like Jason slasher type character, but then also this weird zombie thing. And I just thought that was kind of cool. Like I was like, oh yeah, I've never really seen something like that where you kind of combine like two different type of like monsters or something that you normally would see.
But no, I thought all this was really fun. I actually, once it got going, the last like 30 minutes or however long the last chunk was, I actually really enjoyed. I thought the pacing was good. I thought because it was so short and they didn't have to stretch out like extra sort of things, it was just boom, 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 go through the entire like roster of kids and kill them all one by one, in a variety of ways. And I will say this though, so we got a final girl who might be the most stupid final girl I have ever seen in my life. For a start, she hides from the killer, the mask guy, behind this like grate that's got big holes in it that are like proper big, and it's clear you can see right through it. Somehow though this works.
Yeah.
Somehow she dances around it and she avoids being seen. She gets a machete, or if not a machete, a similar type blade. She's sneaking up behind him as he is carrying like the zombie dude. He's knocked him out and he's carrying him to the water, where we see that he's got the rest of the corpses when we eventually get there. But he's carrying him. She sneaks up behind him, and instead of just running up and stabbing him, she announces, "Hey you, I'm going to kill you." And of course, when she goes in for the stab, he catches the blade and then he immediately kills her with his own blade through her chin. She is an idiot, a moron. I will say this though, it
Yeah.
subverted my expectations because I was really expecting to have more of a traditional final girl, running around away from them, which I would have enjoyed.
Yeah.
I would have got into that, but it completely changed that because she immediately got killed, and what we got instead was like this weird ambiguous like this person in the mask is like sacrificing these people to the lake because the lake has some sort of like hellish supernatural property.
Yeah, so I kind of actually liked this story, and I feel like a lot of times on the show, I have a complaint where it's like, stuff isn't explained. But like in this, yeah, there's definitely like a lot of questions that you're left with. But I thought it was kind of fun. Like, ooh, I kind of want to know more, like about like what the hell's going on. Like they have,
Uh, Honestly, I think there's just the right amount of ambiguity here because
yeah,
it does enough. Like you get the idea that he's doing this for the lake because he walks back into the lake and you see all these hands come up
hands, yeah,
and pull him down, but like, he's not struggling. He's like accepting of this. So
yeah.
already I'm thinking, all right, it's the people of the lake. The lake itself is sentient and like wants sacrifices. Um,
And
but
I assume that's what like happened to the guy that went into the lake before. Maybe he
kind of,
got
yeah.
affected by these things or something.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he wasn't accepted like this guy is. This guy's
Yeah.
obviously, offered people, so he's being welcomed with open arms, as it were. In fact, I thought this entire scene was really well done because when he was going into the water, that's when the girl who had her head bashed in and she's still all wrapped up in bandages, like we see her sit up in the background behind him, and it's just a really,
Yeah.
really creepy like moment, which is really weird because he's the killer and she's one of the victims, but it's still really creepy. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of times where it does that throughout the movie where you see someone in the background, and I always enjoy that kind of stuff. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Nice sense of geography. But there's this great moment where they look at each other, and it feels very like this is like important. Like something's going down here. You get this
Yeah.
sense of grandiose like importance, as if this is kind of biblical, whatever he's doing. Um, and then she gets up and she's still alive for whatever reason, and she goes to touch the water. She touches the bed under the water, and she gets this weird vision of like red skulls, as if like
Yeah.
the water is hell itself.
Yeah.
Like I loved all this. This was great. I was intrigued the
Yeah.
entire time. It was like pointing at the reason as to why these killings were happening. They weren't just random. And then it just left you on this cliffhanger, or kind of cliffhanger, where the bandaged lady like turns around and the title comes up on the screen as if she's now part of the lake, as if she's now maybe the new killer for the lake or the new soldier for the lake.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like you know, sometimes when a horror movie is really good, like you don't necessarily want a sequel because you're like, oh, that's just like a nice standalone. Like you don't want to risk ruining anything. But this was something where I'd actually like, I'd like to see more. Because there is like a little bit of a mythology now that's kind of being built with like something weird that's going on with this lake and stuff. So I think it'd be interesting to you know, uh, especially if it's something where if this did well and maybe a studio or someone liked it that could put a little more money behind it, could be a really interesting sequel or something if they ever decided to do it.
I don't see it happening. But then again, this probably cost next to nothing to make, so maybe they will just make another one. Because why not?
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it needs one though. I think the open endedness of it is actually part of the charm.
I don't know. I would like to like learn more about it. Like I just thought it was like a cool stuff that they were building, and like I'm not saying that I want them to do something where it's like everything is explained in like a nice, neat, little package. But I would, I'd be down for seeing some more stuff and exploring that whatever is going on there a little bit more.
I'm not saying I'm against that. I don't think it
Yeah.
needs it. Like I think it just stands on its own as a fun 40-minute story, and that's cool.
Huh.
But I liked it. I actually liked it a lot. Like I didn't think I was going to because those opening scenes with them partying and whatever were really dragging on. Like I felt like it was just lingering because normally in these slasher movies, yeah, there'll be a lot of build up to each kill, especially early on, like before the first kill. There might be a good, 20 minutes of just them setting up the characters. But typically, the characters will actually, have character, and
Right.
they will have some sort of story that's separate from the killings. Like, it might be something as simple as one of the guys has got a crush on one of the girls, so he's trying to, woo her. And that'll be the kind of the plot that's going on while the killer's stalking in the background, and we'll get to killings. But the characters will have their own little story as well that sort of drives what they're doing. Whereas here, they're there and they're drinking,
Yeah.
and that's it. There's really nothing else to it.
Yeah.
But no, I thought this was a really fun pulpy thing where it sets up different elements. The girl's getting taught how to use the axe early on, and
Oh yeah.
and then she goes to get the axe, so you think it's going to be this big moment, but then she's an idiot and she announces her presence to the killer before trying to kill him.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, he manages to escape death.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Those are all really good points, and I feel like I wanted to like it a little more than I did. Maybe I'm being a little overly harsh on it. It's the funny kind of thing about it is like I feel like it's something where like if I you know maybe like knew the people that made this or something, or like if this was the kind of thing where like like some friends you had like did this as like a project or something, like you'd probably like I feel like you'd look at it and be like, wow, like this is like super impressive and stuff. But if I'm looking at it as kind of like judging it on the same like scale that we would like any most of the movies we do here that are have higher budgets and are in theaters and stuff, like I feel like it's not as impressive. But I feel like that's also super unfair because it must have been such a like small team working on like a really low budget and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun. And in the end, by the time we got to that final scene, I was actually really into what was going on. Like, more so than I was even expecting to be, just from like that. Because I like slasher movies, but they did this like really interesting thing at the end where they gave it this extra bit of meaning, as if there was more things going on, and it just I made it pretty cool and interesting. So I would recommend it if you like these kind of things. If you liked what Tarantino and Rodriguez did with Grindhouse, but they turned up to 11, like even more so, then I think you'll get a kick out of this. So let's go back and talk about the fake trailer, Harvest Man, just briefly. Did you enjoy the fake trailer for Harvest Man, Timmy?
I would actually be down to see that. and yeah, it does add like a nice little bit of a charm to it. I think like maybe like the commercial I could have done without, because I like I feel like a fake trailer is something you might expect more or be used to more, but then like the beer commercial, I was kind of like, wait, is this gonna be the whole movie or whatever? Is it just gonna be like all this fake stuff? But yeah, the trailer for Harvestman I did think looked pretty cool.
I kind of got it. I got that it was like a, like VHS tapes that you bought would have like some adverts, then some trailers, and then the movie. Like that was pretty common back in the day. So I got what it was doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like seeing commercials usually isn't that common. Maybe
They didn't all have them, but some did. I remember some having them before the trailers.
I feel like it would be something where maybe it wouldn't seem so weird if it was like if I went to the movie theater, to see it, and then where you might be expecting trailers and commercials and stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, just watching it kind of seemed like, oh, like I wasn't expecting this.
I liked how it came in mid commercial though. I liked how it, as if the tape had been like taped over or something, and it just sort of like it came into it. Like I kind of liked that. But yeah, Harvest Man was kind of like this goofy idea about this like stuff getting in the water, which turns this guy's farm into like this super producing he gets awards for the giant pumpkin, the giant this, the
Yeah.
giant that. But then he ends up being able to control his crops and goes insane and starts killing people.
Yeah.
um, I'd watch it, sure. um,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'd have fun.
I'd be down for it.
Um, no, I enjoyed Late Nowhere. It's kind of a weird one to recommend because it isn't really a full movie because it is only 52 minutes. But if you look at it as like the potential start of an anthology series, whether it's a TV show or whether it is just a series of short films like this, it could be quite cool.
Yeah. No, like like I said, I would definitely be
I mean,
interested to.
if you're not a killjoy like Timmy here, you'll have some fun.
I don't know. I'd be like interested to see like what else these people can do. Um, but yeah, no, there was fun to it. I just think I maybe dial back the gimmick a little bit, honestly.
I don't
But
know.
that's just me.
I was into the gimmick. It's just a taste thing, but I was into it.
Mhm. And like I've liked stuff that have done that before. Like do we do House of the Devil on here or
We did, yes.
okay? I forget if we just talked about like on person, but like I love like the way that looks and how that's like kind of a like has like an old time look to it. But I don't know, with this it just felt like I don't know, at times it just seemed like it was relying too heavily on it. Which, but that's just me though.
Okay. No, I don't have a problem with it. I actually, if anything, I liked what the mood. I think if you took it away, it would be a really weird experience watching this with the bad acting and stuff. Like it would, like I think watching this like presented clean. It was like Planet Terror had that on the Blu-ray that you could watch a clean version of it without the specs and film scratches and all that.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's the point? It was clearly intended to be watched like that because that's the mood that they want to set. If you take that away, you end up with this really weird thing where you have this ultra clean thing, like version of a movie where, because we've seen this as well, we've seen like new movies or new TV shows try to like do reboots or a new version, a continuation of an old franchise, and a
Yeah.
lot of the time it feels really off and really unnatural because it's like, but no, this wasn't in HD and 16:9 and
Right. Yeah.
so on. It's odd. It feels taken out of its element. It's kind of like I don't know, like it's kind of like how 2D video games, right? Like they make new 2D video games, but they look too clean. Something feels off about them because they look so like Mighty Number 9 is like an example.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that looks weird and not that appealing because it has this weird 2.5D look to it and it's a side scroller and it's kind of the same thing with these kinds of movies. I feel like a movie with this type of acting and this type of like story and cast and goofy pulpy plot and ridiculous deaths, if you do that today in like a clean HD, camera, it doesn't have the same feel to it.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I'm not saying I would like totally want them to get rid of the like the look and everything like entirely. Like I'm not saying that. Oh yeah, I wish it was like full HD Dolby surround sound or whatever. I don't even know if that's like a good sound thing.
Tim, I feel like you're just throwing random words at me that you've heard from somewhere.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know any of that like technical stuff. I don't. Yeah, I just feel like it was like a little too much at times, and if it's just dialed back a little bit, I feel like I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But
Nah, I had fun. Like I say, I just think the opening, like 10 minutes or so of the actual story, not the opening 10 minutes overall, because that had the trailers and the whatever at the start, but the opening like 10-15 minutes of the actual story, the pacing was really weird because it didn't really have that focused plot. But once we got to the killing and once we got to all that stuff, I had a lot of fun. So I would recommend it.
yeah, that might be my like complaint too, because like I feel like I had the more issues with this stuff like during that kind of opening 15-20 minutes or so, like you said, like once the killing and the story actually starts going, like I really didn't, you know, notice or have any complaints as much either. So um, maybe that stuff just doesn't work for me when it's not like, get into the kind of meat and potatoes of the movie. You know what I mean?
I think that pretty much wraps us up then. It just leaves us to rate the film in question, Lake Nowhere. Tim,
Yeah.
this is a weird one to rate actually. I don't know how you score this, but regardless, I'm going to make you rate it out of 10 anyway, so go on.
Well, kind of like I said before, and like, yeah, you just said it, it's kind of hard because again, like if I'm looking at it as like, you know, not so much like, you know, the same type of movie that we usually watch, but if I was looking at it more as like kind of like a project or like a student film or something like that, I'd give it a very high score and be super impressed. But just looking at it as like a movie in general, it's a little bit harder to do, but I think I would give it like a 6. Um, but still, like again, you know, still impressed with what these people that were able to do with what I'm assuming is like a very low budget and everything.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly higher. I'm going to go with a 7. I think, despite its early problems, I think that I enjoyed the kills, I enjoyed the pacing, I enjoyed a lot of the direction. The cinematography is actually quite on point in a lot of it. And I think there's some genuinely creepy moments which I wasn't expecting. But more than anything, I was left feeling very intrigued. As the ending played out, I was very interested in what was going on. And I typically don't care in slasher movies. It's just like, oh, I'm there for the kills and cool killer, maybe a cool mask, blood
Yeah,
splatter. And I got a lot of that, but the ending actually left me with a bit more. So that's actually kind of cool, and I appreciate that. So
definitely.
for what it is, a 7. I feel like obviously if you're going to judge it against, how do you compare it to The Shining?
Yeah,
You can't.
yeah,
So you just don't.
yeah. It's hard, and yeah, and I would still definitely recommend checking it out. Even if I was sounded like a little harsh, I think it is still worth checking out because it is definitely something different and not something that like you see that much anymore. And I would much rather like 1,000 times over take something like this that I might have some problems with, but at least it does have some style and look to it over like the kind of just generic like a lot of modern stuff we see
You,
nowadays
do
where it
you
just
mean like friend request, perhaps, for
yes
example?
yes where that it just looks like so bland and there's no like specific style or heart to it, at least like
Or
you know
The Boy as a second example?
no, that doesn't work.
Yes, it
The
does,
Boy's
because
great.
that was also generic and crappy. But on you
No,
go.
no, no. I love The Boy.
Terrible, Timmy. Terrible.
No, no. Revisit it. You'll like it.
Never.
Uh,
Never going to happen.
but no, like I would definitely, take something like this that, at least it's trying for something. If it doesn't even, knock it out of the park each time, at the very least, at least it's not just playing it, safe and just doing the same dumb thing that you see a million times, each year.
Well, I guess that wraps us up then. That's Lake Nowhere, which is an oddity, but something that's worth checking out if you're into slasher movies in particular. And if you grew up in an era where you watched a lot of these things on VHS, I feel like you'll get a lot of nostalgia out of this. And it actually does some interesting things towards the end, so that's cool too. So that is Lake Nowhere. Let us know what you think of the movie if you have seen it in the comments below. You can like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We will see you next time.